yeah, and you should be happy as fuck.
What's up, my hippies? It's me, Emily, and today I have a different type of story. So today I'm going to be talking about the murder of Jessica Ridgeway. Generally, I try to keep my videos on here lighthearted and fun and relatable, but for the month of October, I wanted to try something different. So I really wanted to go into some more spooky, haunted, murder type stories and kind of talk about them. And I kept it pretty lighthearted with the first two. So I did talk about Denver International Airport and Hotel Colorado. And obviously, those places are here in Colorado, which is where I live. But I wanted to kind of do a little bit of a darker story this time that also took place in Colorado. And this one is about Jessica Ridgeway. It's extremely sad and a little bit graphic. So if you are sensitive to cases with child murders, I would suggest that you skip this video because it can be slightly triggering to some. So before I begin telling this story about Jessica Ridgeway, I did have the opportunity to meet her mother. My best friend actually lived right next door to Sarah Ridgeway's coworker, and Sarah Ridgeway is Jessica Ridgeway's mom. I did not know Sarah personally, and my friend had only spoken with her a few times, but we did meet her around the time that these events took place. So Jessica Ridgeway was a 10-year-old little girl who lived with her single mother, Sarah Ridgeway, in Westminster, Colorado. Jessica was described as being a sweet, fun, loving young girl who loved shows like Shake It Up, Wizards of Waverly Place, and she wanted to be a cheerleader when she was old enough to be. She loved to sing and dance and was a very spirited young lady. Sarah Ridgeway, Jessica's mom, worked in Boulder, Colorado, and with her schedule, it left her to wake up and make sure Jessica was set and ready for school, and then go back to sleep during the day, wake up around 4 p.m., around the time that Jessica would typically get back from school, and then she would go and do her working life. So during the time that Jessica was in school, her mom would typically be sleeping on an average day. Just keep that in mind during this story. So on October 5th of 2012, Jessica got up like normal, she ate her breakfast, she got dressed, and she had called one of the neighborhood boys to meet at his house to go to school together. The boy's house was about 1,000 feet away, so not too far away from Jessica's house. It should have only been a 10-minute walk for Jessica to walk to her friend's house. So Jessica said goodbye to her mom. Her mom made sure that she walked out the door, went to sleep, and trusted that Jessica would be safe walking to her friend's house. This was about 8:30 in the morning, and by 8:40, Jessica had not arrived at her friend's house, so her friend's dad decided to take him to school without Jessica. The teachers at school noticed that Jessica was not present and that her mom had not called in an excused absence. So they sent out a notification to Jessica's mom around 10 a.m. that morning. However, her mom was sleeping during that time and did not have her phone in the room with her. So she was unable to get that call and know that Jessica was not at school during that time. Around 4 p.m., Sarah got up like usual, typical average day for Sarah, and she had gotten the notification from the school. She figured that it must have been a mistake, that they must have missed her daughter, and that there was some sort of mistake in counting her daughter as present for the day. But either way, she went out and drove around. She went to the local park that Jessica was known for visiting. She went to the school. She visited with different neighbors around the area, and no one had seen Jessica all day, and Sarah quickly realized that Jessica was not around the usual areas. It was around 4:30 p.m. that Sarah decided to call the Westminster police and report that her daughter was missing. The police came out, they checked the obvious areas, which would be Jessica's school, Jessica's home. Usually when you report a missing persons case, the first place they're gonna check is like their school, their work, their home, just to make sure they're not hiding out somewhere. So that's what the police did. They took the correct course of action and checked the usual areas, but were unable to locate Jessica. Right away, the first suspect in the case was Jessica's father. Now, Jessica's father lived in Missouri at the time, and he had been out of Jessica's life for many years. The reason why they thought he might have something to do with it is because him and Sarah had been arguing over child support for the past few years. So they did reach out to him and see if he had an alibi, and it turns out that he actually had court that day and he was working the remainder of the day. So that kind of ruled him out as being a suspect in the case. The police went on further searches that night with bloodhounds and people from the neighborhood. However, they were not able to locate Jessica still, and they decided to put out an Amber Alert around 9:00 p.m. That following Saturday, around 1,000 people came out to search for Jessica. Close friends and family had posted a Facebook group for searching for Jessica Ridgeway, and that's how people were notified about the situation. So it was friends, families, and strangers pitching in just to help find this little girl. On October 7th, 2 days after Jessica went missing, a man in Superior, Colorado found a backpack in his neighborhood, and they did take the backpack in for observation. It turns out that backpack did in fact belong to Jessica Ridgeway. At the time that guy found the backpack, he was unaware of the Amber Alert out for Jessica Ridgeway, so when he had called it in, it kind of did cause a lead in the case, and people were very hopeful that Jessica might be nearby the backpack. On October 10th at around 2 p.m., that's 5 days after Jessica had gone missing, on a local highway there were field workers, and they came across a strange and unusual plastic bag thrown on the side of the road. And coincidentally, there had been an animal control officer passing by, so they flagged the officer down to come observe the bag because they did say it was a bit suspicious to have in the area. And upon investigation, they discovered that there were human remains inside of that bag. The bag was sent off for DNA testing, and it came back positive for matching with Jessica Ridgeway. The case went from being a missing persons case to a murder investigation. About a week after they had found the remains of Jessica Ridgeway, their focus turned to a 17-year-old boy named Austin Siggs. Austin Siggs was known for having an obsession with mortuary science and child pornography. His mother said that he was in therapy for it because it was found at an early age that he was looking up child pornography, and he was really into decomposing bodies and deconstruction of bodies. A friend of Austin's mom had notified police because she recognized a wooden cross that had been placed on the highway where Jessica's body parts were found from Austin Siggs. So she notified police about the incident, and they had gone to his house and questioned him. They even took DNA samples of him and everything, and nothing ever came of that situation. However, it must have scared Austin a little bit because on October 23rd, Austin sat down with his mother and confessed to the killing of Jessica Ridgeway. Coincidentally, Austin had been out driving around the same area that Jessica Ridgeway was walking to her friend's house on October 5th, and for some reason he had the urge to take Jessica Ridgeway that day. He had tied her up with zip ties and thrown her in the back of his Jeep, where he took her home to his house and into his room. Austin then made Jessica Ridgeway get undressed from her clothes and put her urine-soaked clothes in her backpack, and he then proceeded to strangle her to death. At that point, he also dismembered her body. He had thrown her torso in the plastic bag and thrown it off on that random highway, and he had taken her backpack. He took the urine-soaked clothes out of the backpack and only put her glasses in the backpack before he tossed it in a random neighborhood in Superior, Colorado. He did keep body parts to himself. This is the part that's a little bit graphic. So he kept Jessica's skull because he found it fascinating, and he did keep other organs and body parts, and he did have them labeled in his closet. His mother did the right thing. She promptly called police and was in tears and telling them that she believes her son had something to do with the disappearance and murder of Jessica Ridgeway. How awful would it be to sit there with your child and hear them say that they killed a 10-year-old little girl? I can't imagine what Sarah Ridgeway and Mindy Siggs had to go through during those instances. Police did question Austin, and he did confess to every part of the disappearance and the murder of Jessica. I don't know if the details are out there publicly, so I don't want to share too much information about that, but just know that it is speculated that she was sexually assaulted in some way. While he was talking about the murder of Jessica, he did describe himself as a monster, and he just said that he happened to be in the right place at the right time and just had the urge to take Jessica Ridgeway that day, and that it was almost like an instinctual desire to kill. Since Austin was not 18 when he committed this crime, they were unable to give him the death penalty for this. However, the district attorney that was working on the case made it very clear that Austin would never be leaving prison. This story is extremely gruesome, and it's extremely heartbreaking to know that a 10-year-old girl, an innocent 10-year-old girl, was walking to school and some random boy just had an urge to pick her up and kill her and dismember her body. Like, how sickening is that? I'm sure that Sarah Ridgeway is still dealing with this to this day. I don't know how someone could possibly get over such a gruesome death of their daughter like that. Just dealing with death alone is hard enough, but the way that Jessica died and the way that her body was treated after she died is just horrific to even think about. On the flip side, Mindy Siggs, who is Austin's mother, she did the right thing. A lot of people were criticizing her for having a son that would murder a 10-year-old girl, but we have to remember that this is not Mindy's fault. It's not anything that Mindy did to have her son do these acts. It was her son's acts on his own, and honestly I think that Mindy did the right thing, and I think it would be equally as hard for her to deal with having a son that would do something this horrific to somebody else. This happened only about 30 minutes away from the town that I live in, and since then there has been a lot of strict policies about kids being dropped off at school, picked up from school. Parents have kind of band together to make sure that their kids are always being monitored. So at a lot of schools these days, you have to be the one to drop off your kid, or you have to have someone that is there on a consistent basis picking up and dropping off your child. It's very hard to have a stranger pick up your child. Unfortunately, in Jessica Ridgeway's case, she didn't even get the chance to make it to school. She was simply just walking down a neighborhood street. I don't know about you guys, but when I was 10, 11, 12 years old, I was walking to school by myself every single day and walking home every single day. And to think that times have changed so much to where you worry about your 10-year-old daughter being kidnapped and killed on her way to school is just absolutely insane to me. It just goes to show you that you never know who's out there, and your kids are never going to be 100% safe, especially when you're not around them. And that's just part of how our world is in this day and age, and it just absolutely makes me sick to my stomach how somebody could have these thoughts in their head to harm such a young girl and actually do cruel things to her body like that. I don't know much about Austin Siggs' situation and how he's doing to this day. I am assuming he's still in prison. I don't think there's an estimation of when he will get out or even if he will get out. I hope if that district attorney is doing the right thing that he stays where he is and doesn't have the opportunity to harm anybody else. Something else interesting about Austin is that before he attacked Jessica Ridgeway, he attempted to attack a female jogger in his town. He had tried to take her while she was jogging, and she was able to fight back and get out of that situation. However, his DNA did match that case and Jessica Ridgeway's case, and he did admit to that incident as well. So Jessica Ridgeway was not the first person that he tried to attack. Just please, if you have kids out there, please make sure that they are being monitored on their way to and from school or anywhere else they are going. You never, ever, 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 ever can be too safe with letting your kids walk around the towns that you live in. You never know who's out there watching them, and there's so many cases of missing children and children who die at an early age because of murderers, and it's just really scary to think about. So please keep an eye on your children. I know that nobody wants to be that overprotective mom, but I'm sure if Sarah had a do-over, she would have been 10 times more overprotective if she knew what was happening on October 5th of 2012. Alrighty guys, well, on that note, I'm going to end this video. I'm not gonna say that I hope you guys enjoyed it, because I don't think there was anything enjoyable about this story that I told, but I felt like there wasn't a lot of knowledge on this case in particular, and it did happen in my state and just a couple miles away from me, so pretty scary to think about. I hope you guys are having a great October. If you do enjoy my videos, don't forget to like and subscribe to my channel. I put out new videos every Friday. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one. Goodbye.